Hello, and welcome to the We Unite, We Win podcast. My name is Lauren Collin. Today marks the beginning of a new type of series for us here at We Unite, We Win. I'm working on some different names. Maybe it will become ultimately the Listen to the People podcast. Maybe User-Generated America, conversations with, of, and by the people. But as of right now, you're just here with me, and you are going to be introduced to the first interview that we have conducted here at We Unite, We Win. And the person we interviewed was someone who joined on TikTok Live. Her name is Wylene Jowers, and she is a 72-year-old woman from Augusta, Georgia. When we spoke, she was still recovering from damage due to Hurricane Helene, but she spent an evening with us while she was cooking food for her family, 4 generations, I think she said, to great grandkids, which is pretty amazing. And she tells some of her life story about how she grew up in rural Georgia without any plumbing or electricity. And then fast forward 72 years, and she and I were connected via these devices we hold by our hands, an app made by a Chinese company, and we were in real time with video and voice. Our lives, Wylene and mine, could not be further apart, which is really the goal and aim of these interview series. We have all the opportunity in the world with the media that we have to hear from experts, where semi-famous people and or reporters, sometimes they're the same, are sitting down with other famous people or experts. And those people spend their time telling us what they believe and or telling us what we believe, which is fine. It's something that we've had basically, I guess, since the advent of the printing press, right? There were not a lot of stories of the regular people. And maybe that's even true of our original orality. Humans first started speaking as our communication. It's our longest form of communication. Reading and writing came much longer. There's not really a history of hearing directly from the people. And I think it's time to change that. I have more or less, since the time this internet thing landed in my lap, which I was just a wee teenager, have always appreciated user-generated content. That eventually, I've basically stopped watching television, which eventually became streaming. When I watch live events, especially sports, I will see streaming series now and then, sitting down with my partner. But by and large, the stories that come from Hollywood, the stories that come from Washington, D.C., the stories that come from New York, I'm not too interested in. As a longtime user of Reddit, someone who has long scrolled through the other socials, I have always had a soft spot, and actually I guess the real spot in my heart, for everyday Americans, the jokes they make, the insights they offer, the dreams they share. And I want to make that more of a regular thing, where I go out in the world and find you. That's right, I find you. And you and I have a conversation. The conversation is just that. I'm not, in this series at least, not here to debate you. I'm here to hear from you. Not just what you think, but perhaps even get to why you think it. I will always be honest with my perspectives, but this isn't really about me. This is about you. And I am excited to dive in to the very first of these interviews with Miss Wylene Jowers of Augusta, Georgia. Take a listen. I am being joined by a guest Hello, Wylene Jowers. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Where are you right now, Wylene?
Augusta, Georgia.
Augusta, Georgia. Oh man, one day I'm going to visit the Masters. It was a dream of mine. Did you survive the hurricane, or was it wet down there?
Yeah, it was real wet, but we survived a lot of trees down, and a tree went through the roof, but we're good.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad to hear that you are good. I hope repairs are coming soon.
With $750, it ain't likely.
I think it's just a first step, right? I believe FEMA will be there to help you. Hopefully, there's insurance as well. But hopefully, you're not too far from getting back on your feet. But thank you for joining me now. Are you open to answering some questions?
Yeah, I'm cooking supper right now. I'll be honest with you, I really don't know how I got here because something come up on my phone and I went to hit and yeah, go ahead, yeah, and I ended up here.
What are you cooking for dinner, Wylene?
Some noodles, some egg noodles with tomatoes and, well, usually tomatoes and rice, but tonight it's going to be tomatoes and egg noodles.
Sounds delicious. Well, if you don't mind answering some questions while you cook, that'd be great. I'd love to have this conversation with you.
Okay.
So, in ethical philosophy, there's this idea that as human beings, our aim is to maximize our happiness, to basically do the things that make you feel good in life. And my question is, do you think about how you make yourself feel good in your own life?
Yeah, I do.
And what are those, how do you think about it? Is it before you fall asleep at night, as you're walking around your neighborhood or talking to friends? Like, how do you kind of have those discussions, those own thoughts in your own head?
This is going to sound weird, but usually when I'm on the toilet.
I was going to suggest that, but I'm glad you answered it yourself. I get my best thinking done there too.
It's quiet.
So I guess what are those things when you think about your happiness? What are those things that you believe make you happy, that you want to pursue more of in your life?
Well, I'm 72 years old, so I ain't got a whole lot more to pursue, but just, I don't know. I'm a homebody. I don't like to go, places a whole lot, but my family makes me happy. I love to cut grass. I'm just a simple person. Just a simple Southern girl, but I love to cut grass, do yard work. As long as I'm doing something constructive, it makes me happy.
That sounds wonderful. Do ideas of pleasure and pain ever shape your thoughts around your happiness?
Oh, yeah. Pain, especially, because I got a bad back. I broke my back, so I've got all kind of titanium in it, and it hurts a lot. But I don't let it stop me. I still get up and I go. I think just basically I'm just a happy person. I don't hardly ever get in a bad mood. I can laugh at things that most people can't. I can see humor in a lot of things. I can lighten anybody's day, really, because
I can feel it here, Wylene, for sure.
I just don't, I let things bother me. They bother me, but I don't let it get me down, I can't afford to. I got to keep going. I got to be strong. That's just me. That's the way I grew up. I grew up very, very in the country. We didn't have an indoor toilet. We didn't have indoor plumbing. We didn't have indoor water. My grandmother cooked on a wood cook stove. I washed clothes on a wringer machine. So I grew up poor but happy, and that's just the way I've been. I'm really not crazy about money. Money can't do everything for you. It's nice to have, but peace of mind's even nicer.
Those are beautiful sentiments, Wylene. If the next questions, okay, so I'm going to ask some questions. If there's ever a question you don't want to answer, just say, I don't want to answer that. If there's ever a question that, like the first one, that sounds a little confusing and you want me to explain more, please just ask me to explain, right? Again, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to judge. I just have questions and I'm curious. And this is exactly what I hope for, to find someone across the country from me with a totally different background to start to get understanding, right? Because this is not the type of conversation that we get on the television or even on this app, right? It's a lot of arguing, and I'm not here to argue. I'm here to ask
Yeah.
questions and listen. So this is a great way. My next question is, do you have a framework for your moral philosophy or for ethics? And that could be something like utilitarianism or Confucianism or postmodernism. It could be your religion. Do you think
That's
about
what
your
I'd
system?
have to go with.
Your religion,
My
okay.
religion, my faith.
What specific religion are you in?
Pentecost.
Pentecostal, and that's what you were born and raised?
Yes.
You've
Life.
never, right? So you've never been part of another church?
Yes, I have. Baptist.
Oh,
But that was
and
only for a short time.
what?
And then I
So you
went
were,
back to, I
yep,
was raised in a Pentecostal church. And that's what
okay.
I was. My great grandson taught me into going to the church he was going to, which was a Baptist church. And I went there for about 2 years. And then I said, no, this is not me. I'm not a Baptist. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. There wasn't anything wrong with it. But it's just things that I wasn't accustomed to. So I went back to my original, my religion, my beliefs.
And again, so someone like, I admit, I was born and raised in Southern California. I am culturally Jewish. I am basically an atheist. So again, this is fascinating to me. What was it about? What was the difference for you in baptism, other than, and maybe it was only like some things felt different, but I guess what were those things that were different that made you go back to Pentecostalism?
Well, like I said, I'm not knocking the Baptists. They are wonderful people. They are. But I'm not used to people washing my feet.
Right.
That's something we don't do in my church. Now, we do talk in language. We do sometimes. If the Spirit gets us, we hop over pews, run up and down the aisles. We get crazy. We do. But it's good. It's a good crazy.
No doubt. It would be fascinating to visit you one day and participate in your church and see what that's like.
I met a guy from California, and I was telling him about my childhood, and not having indoor plumbing and this and that and this and that. I mean, his jaw just dropped. He said, I just can't imagine that. He said, we had a maid, and we never, went without indoor plumbing or indoor water or anything like that. I said, well, you ain't lived until you've lived that. That's fun. That's the fun part. Not to worry about it. Just be yourself and go and have fun. And
yeah,
I did.
My ex-wife's grandfather grew up in the panhandle of Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl, and I guess was literally dirt poor. He died before I met my ex, but I heard stories, and it was amazing how they survived, and again how they found joy in the circumstance. And right, we all have to live, right? And
Yeah.
that's, yeah. My next question, understanding that your ethical framework is your religion, is do you think about virtue and vice as part of your day?
And what you mean, virtue and vice?
So
vice
virtues like, go on.
Vice like in cheating?
Yeah, right. I mean, so basically there's what's interesting about virtue and vice, and virtue is usually understood as like those things that you do that make you feel good, that have you acting as a good person in the world, right? What's fascinating is if you study sort of the 2,500 years of written history that we have across the globe, that whether you were Confucius or Lao Tzu in China 2,500 years ago, or Aristotle and Plato 2,500 years ago in Greece, that they all sort of thought of the same ideas about humanity, right? So you have this concept that humans really, again, whether it's natural in us or whether it's from God, however it comes into us, these virtues are truly human. So the ideas of courage, temperance, I can keep listing them, benevolence, honesty, right? So, and then there's the opposites, right? So the opposite of honesty would be, like you said, like cheating, right? Would be the vice. So yeah, do these kind of things, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, benevolence, honesty, righteousness or right action, propriety, prudence? Are these things that you think about during your day or during your week or as kind of in your life?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always room for wisdom. I don't know. All I can say is I'm just me. I don't know. I don't really know what I think anymore. I don't. I think so much.
That's
I
good.
think about all kind of things, all kind of things.
Like what? Tell me.
Like why them webs are in those trees, or why why the fish ain't biting when I'm sitting on the pond bank around there. Why do the water lilies take over the other pond that I fish in? I mean, it's just, some of it's just silly, but that's things I think about. I
get that.
probably think about a lot of things that other people wouldn't even consider thinking. I mean, off the wall things.
Well, do you think it would be good for other people to be able to think off the wall things? Do you think that people think
Sure.
too narrowly these days?
Yes, I do. I sure do. People don't open their mind. They don't let their mind open to, they don't pay attention to what's going on around them. They don't look at the flowers that's blooming. They don't pay attention to the leaves that's changing on the trees. They don't stop to listen to the birds sing. They've got a closed mind. If they don't hear it on the news, then they don't hear it. If they hear it on the news, then they take that to heart. Most people do. Some people don't. They're not swayed one way or the other. But people need to start using their own minds, their own brain, to make their decisions, because the decisions that people are making this day and time ain't going to help them in the future. It ain't going to help them in the future. By no means.
I absolutely agree, Wylene. Can I ask, were you always like this, or was it sometime in your 72-year journey that you came to be able to think this way and use your mind this way?
I've always been this way. Always. Always. I've always been strong-minded, strong-willed. You're not gonna get nothing over on me. I'm not the type that you can con or scam. I can see through it.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I can see through it.
Well, so do you think because you were saying it would be good for others to do it and people aren't doing it. Do you think there's a way to get people to recognize to do it, or to teach them to do it, or to show them the benefit of opening their mind?
They need to slow down. Slow down. You're moving. People move too fast nowadays. They need to slow down and open their mind and listen. Just listen to what's going on and keep an open mind. Don't be on one track. This is the way I am and this is the way I'm going to stay. Open their mind and listen to everything around them, and then make your own decision. Don't listen to the news, what they tell you, and don't listen to this person or that person. You got a mind. Use it. That's simple. Use it. Open your mind. It might be hard to do it at first, but open your mind and listen to everything that's going around you and everything that's going, and then you make up your own mind. You can do it. I mean, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. You don't have to stay stuck in that shell,
That is a beautiful sentiment, Wylene. Yes. I mean, honestly, like, my goal with this project is to get people to do what you just said. So I'm so happy. This is basically my first live doing this, and your sentiments are mine. We share that. It is truly my hope that people wake up to become independent and have their own thoughts. And where my thinking comes from is following your own self-interest. Do you think it's okay, or do you believe in following your own self-interest?
Yeah, you got to follow your heart. There's nothing else that anybody can tell you, or the news can tell you, or the preacher can tell you, or anything, that it might have a little impact on you, but in the end, it's all in here, it's all in your heart. That's where it's at, and you got to let it out.
some of the world's greatest philosophers wish they could put in clear as what you just said so that they could have told the world that.
I'm not a philosopher. I'm really just I'll be married 50 years in December. I'm just a housewife, grandmother, great-grandmother, and great-great-grandmother.
Which is amazing. Well, Wylene, you said you love wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, that makes you a philosopher. That's literally what philosophy means. A philosopher is one who loves wisdom. Wylene, you are absolutely a philosopher.
Yeah, I'm always open to finding out new things. And, you learn something new every day, whether you realize it or not. You do. It might be just something little minor, something or other, but you learn something new every day. And whether it sticks with you or not, don't know. That's up to you whether you let it stick with you. But I better turn that off.
Don't burn the food.
No, they would hang me in the tree out back if we got any trees left. We got trees everywhere.
Oh, wow.
But we're doing good. We're doing good.
I'm glad to hear that. You're cool to stick around for a few more questions?
Well, to tell you the truth, I really need to get off here so I can finish mixing my stuff up and get everybody in here to eat. I got about 8 people I got to feed.
Oh, wow. And it is 8:00 there. Well, Wylene, This was amazing. And maybe our paths will cross again and I'll be able to ask you more questions.
Okay.
But this was absolutely amazing. I wish you and your family well and a speedy recovery from the damage to the hurricane.
Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful time. Just be yourself, open your mind up, and let the ideas flow. That's all you can do.
Beautiful.
And ain't no telling what you can come up with. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. I really enjoyed this conversation with Wylene. I am not sure how the universe connected us, but I'm absolutely glad that it did. We could not have different lives, different starting points, different current points, but we are both human beings. I think what Wylene shares ultimately that you need to listen to the voice inside yourself. You need to find out who you are is the best thing that she shared. As a liberal who believes in a liberal philosophy, I think that finding yourself ultimately extends to pursuing your own self-interest. And the reminder that pursuing one's self-interest is not selfishness. There's a reason they are two different words. Selfishness means it's only about you. You think about yourself and nobody else. Self-interest on the other hand, actually includes the idea of beneficence, which is that I need to make sure that you can also pursue your self-interest as free as you can in order for me to actually be able to pursue my self-interest. Because ultimately, if I pursue my self-interest and I stop you from pursuing yours, there's going to be friction, or greater friction than would be necessary from you simply following yours and me following mine. And that greater friction is what leads to hate, anger, fear, distrust of each other. So self-interest, at the end of the day, is your interest plus letting everyone else around you follow their interest. And I think what Wylene shares here, that in order to be able to follow your own self-interest, you need to be able to understand who you are. You need to have a real good idea of where you stand in the world, what your virtues are, what you think vices are, your own moral and ethical standards. And again, I'm not here to tell you your ethical standards are right or wrong, but I do believe that all of us, including myself, and I do this every day, I try to do this every day, challenge my own beliefs. Is my starting point, my jumping off point for my beliefs the right idea? Do I interpret my beliefs correctly? Do my beliefs promote my own happiness? Do my beliefs make sure or help to promote the happiness of the people around me? And how do I look at other human beings? And do I care how they look at me? I'm not sure if I necessarily do. If I'm leading the ethical life, the virtuous life that I believe I can, meaning I'm not always being virtuous. It's a hard road to be always virtuous. Confucius recognizes this when he talks about the benevolent man. He gives great praise to one of his students who can be benevolent for 3 whole months, while most of us can barely keep any sort of benevolence in our hearts throughout a single day. It comes and it goes. But the work is to string your virtue together as long as you can. And within that, to also recognize that none of us are perfect. Confucius didn't say the student was always virtuous, or benevolent, I should say. Confucius says that the student gets to a point after 90 days, 3 months, where even that student has a moment of not being benevolent, which I guess is malfeasance, is the opposite of benevolence. It doesn't mean it was a great harm, but it means he strayed from the path of benevolence. And that happens to all of us. But I think what Wylene points out is if you know who you are, your course will always correct. And I think that's a really important lesson, or something to take with you, something to think about. I know since I've spoken to Wylene, I have been thinking about what she said, and I'm glad to have shared it here with you. There will be more of these. The podcast, I think, will start focusing a lot more of these interviews. Not only will I be using TikTok to have people come on and become ultimately part of this podcast, but I'm going out into the real world to interview people, strangers, and also friends. So I'm looking forward to bringing you more of this content. Please let me know your thoughts, either about the interview questions, or more importantly, what you heard from Wylene and how that affects you or doesn't affect you. Do you agree with her? Disagree with her? Do you live your life like Wylene? Do you wish you lived your life like Wylene advises? Do you think others should? Do you think what she offered was not worthwhile? All valid points, and points I would love to hear from you, because like I said, I believe in hearing from each of us, from all 336 million of us, especially the 250 million of us that are adults. With that, my dear audience, I am so glad you've spent some time here with me. Looking forward to our next time connecting. My name is Lauren Collin. This is the We Unite, We Win podcast. Maybe eventually it will get a different name. But the truth is, if we unite, we will win our own futures. No fear, only love.